Senators, when the Senate rose, the insolvency bill was passed. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled Julian Alfred Day.
Julian Alfred Day.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move for the suspension of Standing Order 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at the sitting.
Senators, the question is that Standing Order 49-2 be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Leader of Government Business to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I beg for the second reading of a bill shortly entitled Julian Alfred Day. Madam President, it's one of those days when I believe that everyone with the privilege to speak of or to be part of the recognition, acknowledgement, and celebration of the achievement of our daughter of the soil, Julian Alfred, would have their chin raised an inch or so higher. I am very proud to be associated with a country, a son of a country, or the same country that this phenomenal young woman is part of, and to be able to have the privilege to stand in a parliament at that time. These things don't happen very often. One day, maybe our grandchildren will go and view the tapes. So I will not pass up on that privilege to be part of the time and the season when St. Lucia was recognized on the global stage because of this young lady who has brought us our first ever, not only first ever Olympic medal, but 2 Olympic medals, including a silver and the coveted title of the world's fastest woman with a gold medal. Madam President, we must not fail to underscore the significance of what that means for us, 238 square miles. As a country, as a region, the Caribbean, and what it means when put in context. In fact, this achievement is perhaps made us as St. Lucia perhaps the second place in terms of gold or medals, Olympic medals per capita in the last Olympics. While some countries may have had a greater quantum of medals, but if you do the calculations, just as we are the #1 per capita with Nobel laureates, 2. If you check the number, the 2 medals that Julian was able to achieve, aside from Jamaica, I think we would have been #2 in the entire world, Madam President, in the whole world. And so, as St. Lucians, we must make sure that this achievement is celebrated. And it is on that basis that this bill is being tabled to recognize, to give St. Lucians an opportunity on the 27th of September, Friday, the 27th of September, 2024, the privilege and the opportunity to celebrate as our world Olympic champion returns home, to join her family, to join us, to join the average St. Lucian, and to celebrate that achievement. Madam President, this bill would allow us to have declared that day a public holiday. Banks, schools, and other public offices will be closed. And it is for that particular day. And the bill also makes provisions for future achievements, because we don't want to just think that it's only going to happen once. I, as Martin Luther might say, have a dream that one day another St. Lucian somewhere would have been inspired by Julian, and we would have to celebrate something of that significance. So we are making provisions in that bill for subsequent excellent achievements to be recognized, and that will be done in Clause 7. But Madam President, for now, I really want to call on all St. Lucians from all walks of life, from all over this country, to be part of this celebration. There are a number of activities that have been planned by a planning committee that has been put together, co-chaired by the Minister for Tourism as well as the Minister for Youth Development and Sports, and with competent people who know a little bit more about planning than some of us, so that this thing is properly organized from the time Julian touches down here until she leaves. And so I invite St. Lucians in their concerts, there are different opportunities to interact. That will be discussed in the public domain, and I encourage all St. Lucians and all of us in this chamber to join in the celebration and acknowledgement of our Olympic champion. And so I know today, Madam President, that this bill is going to get the full support of this chamber, and I look forward to us doing just that. I thank you, Madam President.
Senators, the question is that Julian Alfred Day bill be read a second time. Senator Fady.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, Julian Alfred has been an inspiration to all of us in the most extraordinary way. Madam President, she has gifted us one of those rare moments in history where a citizen of a small country could be associated with being the best in the world. Madam President, it is quite instructive that the day when she lifted the gold medal and made our country proud, that on either side of her you had the largest economy in the world, and one of the countries that have performed exceptionally, the United States, standing on either to her left or the right, receiving the bronze or the gold. That was significant, Madam President. Bronze and silver, sorry. That was significant, Madam President, that someone from a small country called St. Lucia was able to stand as tall as she did. And she stood there, Madam President, on behalf of all of us. She made us proud. She lifted our little country and made it famous in the world. Madam President, she has easily entered into the pantheon of great athletes in the Caribbean, and certainly one of the best athletes St. Lucia has ever produced of all time. Madam President, she is an inspiration to many persons to say, not because you're from a small country, it means that your destiny is small. But what she has done, Madam President, she has shown all of us that if you dare to believe it, if you fight for it, if you work towards it, if you're disciplined enough, that you can have it. And so the opposition, of course, supports the Julian Alfred Day celebrations and any other activity that the government may want to put on. Will have our tremendous support, Madam President. And yes, this will be about the 10th time we're going to say the ayes have it, Senator. So I hope that this brings some level of unity, if just for a fleeting moment. But it just shows you, Madam President, the power of sports and the power of achieving something great. And that's what Julian has done. She has truly been an inspiration. So Julian, wherever you are in the world, on behalf of us, we want to say thank you for inspiring us.
Shall I pose the question? Senator Charles.
Madam President, it appears that using the analogy of Senator Fede, smallness can also be good at some points in time. And you can rise to the occasion when it's necessary. Like Senator Fede said, it was a very proud moment for us in St. Lucia, the moment that Julian Alfred crossed that line. There are times that athletes and sporting teams take us to the edge of the cliff, like the Kings normally do in cricket. But when Julian Alfred took off, you could have gone to rest because she was on her way to victory. There was no, she actually, like, to use Senator Fede's analogy, she conquered the most dominant, greatest of nations in the world. So I think I join all St. Lucians in celebrating that victory and in supporting that bill to have a day in her honor and in future to have a day to honor athletes who have excelled in St. Lucia. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry. Thank you, Madam President. I just want to lend my support and voice to the official congratulations, this official record of our appreciation as a nation for the performance, the outstanding, I think superlatives can be exhausted in describing the performance of Julian Alfred at this year's Olympics. But I think we need to recognize that the Olympics, whereas that has been the major focus, is not the be-all and end-all of Julian Alfred and her performances. We need to look at the fact that she has consistently performed, not just for this year, for the last 2 years. And I happened to be watching the Netflix program Sprint, which unfortunately and for some inexplicable reason ignored Julian Alfred completely at the World Championships. I think I caught a fleeting glance of her somewhere in the background, but I understand that's going to be rectified in the next season. But they were looking at Zarnell Hughes, who in some ways reflects and has performed in a similar fashion to Julian, his career trajectory has been fairly similar to Julian. And he had a false starting problem. And it gave me pause to reflect on Julian's career as well, and the fact that she false started at the World Championships 2 years ago. But whereas Zarnell broke down mentally, and I'm not belittling him anyway because this is pressure, and continued to false start, Julian has not repeated that mistake. And I think that speaks more volume to me, in some ways, than even the Olympic victory. Because this means this is someone who has the discipline, the fortitude, and the mental strength. And I think that is the most important thing. Because, and this is something I think we can all take as an example in life. Because in all our professions, you get to a certain level and everybody's reasonably equal. And what makes the difference is your mental attitude and your mental fortitude. And so I want to re-emphasize or emphasize the significance of what Julian Alfred has achieved. And as I sat on the Sunday watching it, I reflect on the reality that my son will grow up in a country that is an Olympic champion, something that I never experienced until full age. And we must not lose the significance of these things. As Senator Fede pointed out, the fact that you come from a small island means nothing anymore. Your dreams are limited only by your ambition, and we can achieve whatever we set our mind to. And so I lend my support to this bill, and I just want to add, I don't know what the full plans for celebrating Julian Alfred's victories will be, but I believe that even from now, we need to start looking at her legacy. Although she's going to build on this, I'm quite confident. We need to make sure that in honoring her, we honor her in a way that has tangible benefits for succeeding generations. And I would like to suggest to the government that they consider perhaps establishing at least two scholarships. One for the top male athlete, one for the top female athlete in her name, so that her legacy can be carried on and persons can follow in her footsteps in a tangible fashion. And with that, I want to again state my support for this bill. Thank you.
Senator Jean.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, I wish to add my voice in support of the Julian Alfred, is it the Julian Alfred Day Act. I have watched with much admiration the progress that Julian Alfred has made over the last 2 years. And just as Senator Lee indicated, I found that the Olympic Games, the Paris Olympics, confirmed Julian Alfred's success and prowess. Last year, when she participated in some of the games and she won, I saw the progression of her ability. Like Senator Lee said, she has matured or is maturing. I wouldn't say matured because it's not the end. I don't think it would be the end of Julian Alfred, but she's maturing, and she has given us the confidence that when she gets on the track, you are almost certain that she will be among the top athletes. Julian Alfred's achievements at the several games in which she has participated has really given St. Lucia this spotlight. And what I admire most of Julian Alfred is that she has not forgotten her country. She has, in every interview, came back to say that she is from St. Lucia. And for that, she has really made me, as the song says, a damn proud Lucian. I think quoting it, Madam President, if I may, would be parliamentary language, isn't it? Also, Madam President, Julian Alfred has, for the last few years, been a student at the University of Texas in Austin, and living in this lone state, Texas being such a large state, the recognition of St. Lucia in a state like Texas is really profound, and I could see that it has opened or will be opening tremendous economic activity for St. Lucia, because there is this continuous reference to the fastest woman in the world coming from this small island of St. Lucia. I listened to a video just about 2 days ago, and the commentator, though speaking about something unrelated to sport, aligned the speed of an individual as a Julian Alfred speed. And so Julian Alfred's name and the name of St. Lucia has become a household name on an international level. And so, Madam President, the recognition that we are seeking to associate with Julian Alfred's feat by recognizing September 27th as Julian Alfred Day, I think is a small token, but I know that it will be associated with several other things to be announced thereafter. There's only one last thing, Madam President, that I wanted to highlight, and that is for governments on a whole, government administrations on a whole, to really give support to budding athletes, academics, whoever. We must not have this myopic view in supporting people, our citizens who have the potential to move forward. We need to set aside color, class, race, and give support to some of these people who we can seek out and see their potential. And so, in this case, it's in sports, but there are young people out there at our schools who are doing exceptionally well. There are some, they may not be in the academic stream, but some in the TVET stream that they also need to be sought out, and support should be given to them so that they can excel to that level. I see Julian Alfred as being one that we could take as a role model for our people, because seeing her on the tracks, we all celebrate her success, but I am sure that she had to go through much sacrifice, much dedication and commitment to her sport for her to get to that level. So with this, Madam President, I lend my fullest support to this bill and congratulate Julian Alfred on the achievements that she has had over the last few years, and look forward to watching her in the future at the Olympics and the several other games that she will be participating in. I thank you.
Senator Toussaint Shallery.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, just briefly, I simply wish to place on record my support for the bill before us, the Julian Alfred Day bill. Madam President, I think it is fitting that we recognize that Julian's story is really one that speaks volumes for many individuals within our country who perhaps have that same very humble beginning like she did. A story of not where you begin, but what you make of the talents that you are given and the opportunities that you seize in the moment in time. And I do hope that this becomes a story of inspiration for many young people in our country. Of course, a lot of the times, especially over the last few years when we speak of our young people, there is a lot of negative associated with young people, whether it's related to crime and deviant behavior or otherwise. But Julian's story is really one of success and achievement, and it's really one of perseverance, Madam President. And so I really want to highlight that and to encourage our young people to use her not just as a household name, but as an example of what the possibilities, what possibilities exist if we harness the talents that we have and if we take advantage of the opportunities that are before us. Like the senator before me, Madam President, one of the things that I've really admired through Julian's journey is the fact that she has never made a disconnect between where she is now, what she has achieved, and where she is from. So sometimes we have persons who have achieved greatness, and unless we really know what their background is, we can't really connect them to a place or where they've started. But she has constantly, at every opportunity, given credence to her country, St. Lucia. And I think that speaks of a level of national pride that I think is one of the things that has resonated with a lot of us in this country, that she has continually recognized and continually bigged up her country, St. Lucia. And I know she too, like she has constantly said, that she's looking forward to simply coming home to celebrate with her people who she knows has been rallying behind her. And I think that her achievement should also teach us a lesson about what we can achieve as a country when we come together as a unit rather than to be separated by the lines that sometimes separate us. And so I too look forward to the announcements over the next few days in terms of the more concrete program to recognize her and some of the other announcements coming from the Prime Minister and the Department, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, as it relates to what are the other recognitions that will be bestowed upon her. And so I just want to lend my support to the bill. And I also want to recognize in that last section of the bill that recognizes that there is so much potential and possibility for our people that we're also declaring that when that time does come, there may be other recognitions that we may have to bestow in a similar manner, and we're making preparations for that as well. I want to thank you, ma'am.
Senator Jawahir.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, colleagues. Of course, it would be remiss of me if I did not lend my voice to supporting this bill, Madam President. Last week, Mr. Speaker and I were in Miami at a conference on AI and cybersecurity with Pal Americas. And when it came to our chance to say who we are and where we were from, it got us truly emotional to stand in that room with persons from the Caribbean, persons from our side of the hemisphere, and say that we can now boast the fastest woman in the world. And if we look back at our country, only country named after a woman, country of 2 Nobel laureates, highest per capita, the UNESCO World Heritage Sites that we boast, and, leading honeymoon destination for more than a decade, we have so much as a people to be proud of. And as Speaker and I, engaged in the room, even the Jamaicans were taking credit for Julian Alfred because, of course, she went and she studied there. And we said, you know what, we have absolutely no issue with that everybody, in some way or the other, who contributed to Julian being the woman and the strong, resilient individual that she is today, we can all share that love. And interestingly, our Prime Minister has said that, he doesn't want the credit. The credit belongs to her. But what this government has done is ensured that in our recent negotiations with the Saudi Fund, where we are the first government to actually acquire financing for the St. Jude Hospital, we have now put in a part of that to allow for the redevelopment or the rehabilitation of the George Odlum Stadium. I think that is a really significant commitment of our government, not just to the people of the South, but to the sportsmen and women of St. Lucia. And of course, Madam President, just like me, I didn't participate in sports, but if you ask me about track and field, I can tell you now. And there are hundreds and hundreds of St. Lucians that, as a result of the success coming out of Julian Alfred, are very much in tune with that. So I want to say congratulations to her, and we look forward to the celebrations on September 27th. It's also my father's birthday, so I want to wish him a happy birthday in advance. And tomorrow is also my mom's birthday, so I want to wish her happy birthday in advance as well. And Madam President, lastly, before I conclude, we know of the areas that have separated us as it relates to support for sportsmen and women. But one entity that I would also like to highlight is the entity that makes a special contribution towards the development of youth and sports in St. Lucia, and that is the National Lotteries Authority. I know recently they acquired some financing to redevelop sports playing fields, and that in some way, whether it be through the after-school program, whether it be through the Elite Athletes Recognition Program or the Cricket High Performance Center Program, it's all geared at tackling crime. And we know that engaging or having our young sportsmen and women engaging in after-school activities, including sports development, contributes to significantly reducing crime in St. Lucia. And that's an area where we certainly need to continue to put our support and lend our voices to strengthen. So with that, Madam President, these few words, I want to say congratulations to Julian Alfred, congratulations to the people of St. Lucia. We look forward to celebrating you when you come home, Julian. Thank you.
Senator Pauline Prosper.
Madam President, as a former teacher and educator, it would be remiss of me not to add my voice in support of the Julian Alfred Day Act. Madam President, Julian has broken the glass ceiling and is an inspiration to the students, the young people of St. Lucia. And if you pass around the primary, the secondary school, the name Julian Alfred will resonate. And our students are looking forward to seeing Julian Alfred when she returns to St. Lucia. A holiday dedicated to celebrating her success will definitely foster a sense of national pride and motivate young people, not only in the area of athletics, but to help them realize that they can achieve anything if they are dedicated, if they put the time and effort, because we know it has been a journey for Julian Alfred. It wasn't something that she achieved in a day. And this is what our students have to recognize, that it takes time to achieve anything good, and you have to be dedicated, you have to give the time and the effort. And so that too would reflect on students when it comes to their schoolwork or anything that they are trying to achieve. Earlier, one of the senators spoke about academics, TVET, etc. And we have struggled in the education system to help our people recognize the benefits of sports, the benefits of technical vocational education, because we have an academically based education system. And even now, if we look at the new technical vocational schools, that the intake has not been too large because people still believe in the academics. Even some parents, some secondary schools are discouraging parents from sending their students to sports academy because they feel that the children are going to miss out on the academics. But experience has shown me that the child who is both academic and sports-oriented is a more balanced individual. And this probably explains why Julian can do very well in the area of sports. A holiday for Julian, emphasizing the important role that sports play in the lives of our young people and all of us who are adults, etc. Madam President, we must celebrate exceptional achievement. We must celebrate greatness. And too often we have young people who do well and who perform. And if we feel that they have not done well enough, we do not support them. I was out of St. Lucia, but I was following what was happening on Derek Walcott Square the day that Julian ran the 100 meters. I saw the celebration. But the day she won the silver medal, the reception was different. In a few minutes, the square was empty. I noticed this from overseas. It means that we celebrate when there's a hype, and we don't encourage you when you don't do as well. So everybody was expecting a gold medal for the 200 meters. And when they did not get the gold medal, it was not the same reception. I attended CPL. On the first day, there was a crowd. We won the match. On the second day, the crowd was smaller. We lost the first match. So for the second match, the field was sparse. The third time, it was worse, but we won. So on Sunday, we got a crowd again. It simply shows that we are not a country who encourage people when they are the lowest. We should continue to support our athletes, support our young people so that they are motivated to do better. And we should not leave them alone. I remember the story about one set of footprints, and it's at the lowest that they need the greatest support from us. So I'm looking forward for a change in attitude of St. Lucians, that if Julian runs a race and she doesn't do well, that we continue to support her, we continue to encourage her, so that she knows this St. Lucia, who has been behind her when she won the gold, is always there to carry her even at her lowest. Because sometimes athletes get very lonely, they can get depressed when they feel that we are not behind them. So St. Lucia now can boast of the economic impact that Julian's performance has had. We can speak of the cultural impact it can have on the country. We can speak of how it can boost tourism in St. Lucia. But the important thing is we need to continue to support the young people in St. Lucia. We need to give them the push, the boost that they need to move forward all the time. And so I take this time to once again congratulate Julian and to assure her that St. Lucians will be there, if not in, physically, but in spirit, to give her the motivation that she needs to do even better as she represents St. Lucia. I thank you.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I proceed, I just want to extend the advance birthday greetings to the Honorable Prime Minister. I was just, okay, I heard that. I wish him well, and on behalf of all of us. Now that I have received acknowledgement from both sides, I wish him well on behalf of the entire Senate and his family. Madam President, it was Nelson Mandela, I believe, I know, in 2010, ahead of the hosting of the FIFA World Cup in that country, who made a statement to the effect that sports can unite people in a way nothing else can. And some of the things that politicians and others cannot do, are unable to do, that sports can do. And as a sportsman myself, in fact, our guest was there earlier. When I met her downstairs and we had a conversation, I then realized that I played volleyball with her mom, and that right away there was a different connection that we established in the conversation, and that you actually had to alert that you were ready to return. It tells you, Madam President, the power of sports. Had I not found that out, I would have viewed the young lady as Miss Universe St. Lucia. But as soon as we develop that connection that sports has, you almost begin to have a new relationship. And so, Madam President, that is the lesson in achievements like what Julian has brought to us. I know that on the 27th of September, you will not know the difference between who is who. Every St. Lucian identifies as a proud St. Lucian. And I know the song by Sly has become super, super popular. I'm sure that song is being played all over the world, and people will find out, well, who is that guy who had that song? And I'm sure he didn't even know at the time when that song was composed that Julian would have won an Olympic gold medal. And so, just a little bit of history, as Senator Lee had mentioned there. I just browsed through. And of course, Julian's achievement didn't just spring up one day. She didn't just show up and win an Olympic gold medal. Madam President, in 2017 in Nassau, she won the Commonwealth gold. At that time, you know, she was a teenager. In 2018, the following year, at the Youth Olympic Games, she won the silver in Buenos Aires. Madam President, in 2022 in Birmingham, one of your favorite cities, she again won a medal, and that was at the Commonwealth Games. She won silver. So that was telling us something, and being at that level, remember who competes against you at that time. And then, Madam President, in 2023 in San Salvador, the Central American and Caribbean Games, the CAC Games, she won gold in the 100, and all of these are in the 100 meters. And significantly, Madam President, at the World Championships this year in Glasgow, we may have forgotten that Julian Alfred actually set a record in the 60-meter dash. So it was no surprise that in 2024, after she had that false start in the World Championship, that she redeemed herself and showed us the strength of her character in winning those two gold medals, those two medals at the Olympics, which is now the pinnacle, really, of her achievement. So, Madam President, now we seem to have forgotten what Julian has done after the Olympics.
She won that gold last year.
She has run 2 Diamond League events. And in one of them, by the skin of her chinny chin chin, she was edged out. But again, the character, that's what Senator Lee was talking about. The character, you know, of the individual. She came back in the last Diamond League for the season in Brussels and won gold again. So right now, Julian Alfred has 4 major medals around her neck. World Championship, 60 meters. She has 2 Olympic medals and a gold diamond. These days, you could call her the Diamond Girl. She has moved from silver to gold to Olympics, and now she has 1 Diamond League. So when Julian lands on the 27th, ikaini 24th, sorry, ikaini medai kat major medai owakui. And I can't wait to get close because, you know, these opportunities don't come every time. Madam President, my colleague Senator Antoine Prosper made a point, and I don't usually disagree with the senators on my side, but I have to tell her, in some ways I disagree with her perspective on the fact that the second place was not celebrated like the gold. You see, when you have tasted, the thing about us as a people, once you have reached that pinnacle, people have expectations. Before Julian won anything, any medal would do. But these days, once it ain't gold, we want nothing else. And that is not to say that we don't appreciate the silver, but this is a natural expectation. And I think it's a good thing that St. Lucians have become a country where people expect you to be the very, very best in the world. So just disagreeing that, and the same with the CPL, they want you to win. And I think it's an attitude that we must encourage in our people. We must have the expectation that we must be the very, very best. And if we don't get it, we'll try again. So I slightly differ with my colleague. Madam President, some acknowledgement may have slipped us as we celebrate and we talk about Julian. And that is, there are people who contributed along the way, especially as a young child. And when you read her bio, you will know that she came out of the community of Cicero, and the Cicero Primary School, which is still there, and I'm sure the children, every child from that school can now say, I have an Olympic gold medalist who sat on those benches. And as a teacher, I tell you, this is super, super special. I wish I had spent at least one day. I have a friend who went to Cicero Primary. I must try to associate with that. She came on transfer to Deriso Combined some years ago when I was a child. You almost find people looking for anything that they can associate with champions, and that's natural, and that's okay. And then, sorry? You see, and the president has spent vacation in Cicero, so you see? We can all find something that we can cling on to that connects us with an Olympic champion. She attended the Leon Hess Comprehensive Secondary School. And I know, some people will happily remind you that they were of that school. And I'm very proud of all the alumni people and all of those who have contributed to that school and its achievements. Again, I went to CCSS, but I would go up that hill every now and then. You see some. So, Madam President, it is important for us to associate ourselves with things that cause us to be proud. And that is why I believe everybody, it's not opportunistic. I think it is genuine that we are just so happy about what we have achieved as a country, that everything we can associate with our champion, that we should. And no more in this world where we go anywhere that we would not be able to say that we are of champion world-class material. We can now say that because we have reached that very pinnacle. And so, Madam President, I want to join everyone who has made their contribution today. I want to also say thank you to the family of Julian who made the sacrifices on her behalf. Her mother and the rest of her family who have really allowed the country to work with her and cooperated with all of us to achieve this. Particularly, I don't want us to forget, and I want to put it in the record, her coach from younger, Cuthbert Modest Twatine, who, we know him, he's into his carnival mass and very comical character, but a very committed, caring, and devoted young man who, well, not so young these days, but who I am sure we cannot underestimate the impact that he had on the life of Julian. And so, Madam President, I look forward to this. I want to remind the Senate that the Julian Alfred Day is for this year. I heard some people talking about it's a holiday every year. No, let's get it right. It is acknowledged this year. The provision is made for the Parliament to be able to declare subsequent times if there is a need. Cabinet, sorry. And of course, you will have to come to make amendments if that is the case. But it is for the 24th of September of this year. So, Madam President, I thank in advance all the business. 27th. Why am I saying 24? 27th. My apologies. I thank all the partners, the business places, the banks, all of those who have been supportive of the idea, and look forward to the great celebration when Julian touches down in our country again. Thank you again, and we wish all St. Lucians and Julian the very best going forward.
Senators, the question is that the Julian Alfred bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to make provision for a Julian Alfred Day and for related matters.
Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 3.
Appointment of Julian Alfred Day.
Do you have any amendments here? No. Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 4.
Declaration as public holiday.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 5.
Public holiday to be observed in banks.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 6.
Public holiday to be observed at public offices.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 7.
Appointment of another day as Julian Alfred Day in subsequent years. But we have
Madam President,
have
if
to
I
make a
may,
change.
at this point, in clause 7, make an intervention. It is being recommended that we remove at the end of 7 the phrase as Julian Alfred Day after the word day, and the statement should instead read, instead of what we have which says appointment of another day as Julian Alfred Day in subsequent years, that should now read appointment of another day in subsequent years.
Okay. Could you, Senator, read the entire
Okay.
paragraph? Would
The
just make sure
entire
everybody gets
section.
it.
So
Yes.
it would mean that it reads as follows. Clause 7. Yes. In this act, under the interpretation, Julian Alfred Day means the day appointed under Section 3. Do I have it there?
Cabinet may.
I'm sorry.
It starts with cabinet may.
Yes, Cabinet may, yes.
But
By
before-
order
Cabinet-
published in the Gazette.
Excuse, before you read that, the heading, appointment of another day, you did that part
Yeah, I read
already?
that.
Okay.
So I'll just read the entire one, starting now with Cabinet may. Okay, Cabinet may, by order published in the Gazette, in relation to any subsequent year, appoint any day to be, and in that case, we will need to replace the Julian Alfred Day.
As you
Okay.
should. Mhm.
I was reading both what was there and what is to be done.
No, just read it.
So let me just read it as it ought to be read. Okay, so appointment of another day as Julian Alfred Day in subsequent years. It should read, Cabinet may, by order published in the Gazette, in relation to any subsequent year, appoint any day to be a national day of excellence. Declare that day, and declare that that day be a public holiday. Okay?
Okay, Senators, we are on board? Okay. Clause 7 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Senators, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
As many as of the contrary opinion say no. Did I hear aye when I said fail? I didn't hear aye on this side. Did you say aye? Oh, okay. All right. Senators? Oh, okay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Julian Alfred Day bill went through committee stage without amendments. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that a report of the committee be adopted and that the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Julian Alfred Day bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the King's most excellent majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the Julian Alfred Day Act 2024.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned, sine die.
Before I pose the question, I want to thank you, Senators, for your time to engage with our Miss Universe candidate, and I look forward to your agreement when proposal is sent before us. Also, to encourage you to go out and get your national colors as we prepare to celebrate our champion. And in closing, Senators, the question is that the Senate do stand adjourned sine die. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting adjourned.
All rise.
We've come to the end of today's Senate hearing. Believe it or not, today there were only 2 bills which were down to be read, and what we just heard when the Senate resumed this afternoon, the Julian Alfred Day bill was being discussed, and the thrust of the bill is to declare the 27th of September the public holidays. The schools will be closed, businesses will be closed, banks will be closed, and that day the country will stop, if you will, and celebrate and recognize the achievements of Julian Alfred's success at international competitions, including the recently held Paris Olympics. For a change, Michael, we had unanimous hearing and well, I wouldn't call it a debate, but every member of the Senate, they threw their support behind this bill, the Julian Alfred Day bill, the opposition, and everybody came together. As we were saying yesterday, this is what Julian Alfred has done, has really brought St. Lucians together, let them put their political stripes on the side, and just unite this country. One clarification concerning this bill was that there was a bit of confusion yesterday, and in that we had thought, or I think I had said that the bill would have been, the holiday would have been for every year after this 27th of September. There was some clarification which was done in the Senate, and that it is not every year. If the need so arises where the Cabinet finds it fitting that a day of excellence has to be announced in recognition of some kind of achievement, then of course the bill passed today would allow room for that, in which case the members of Parliament would come into Parliament and then declare, you know, any such day as a public holiday.
Pour ajouter à ce Saudi, Julian Alfred, qu'on dit en Chaïmoun Gakouye, Juju Day, Julian pour Juju, puis c'est ti soudnon yo Gakouye, c'est Juju, avec ça qualité, importance et valeur qui Julian Alfred Jabaï Saint-Lucie, un jeune petit fille, 23 l'année, avec discipline, avec manière y approcher, avec moi quoi, moi quoi c'était sénateur Lee indépendant, Lee qui dit à quoi dit il y a les plus qui accomplissement, c'est pas jour les gains médaille l'or pas c'est pas tout mais c'est ça il fait pour vivre là, c'est ça qui est important. Il dit qu'il a regardé l'autre monde peut-être vous savez là il a créé un sport full start là il commencé avant et ça a croisé ça a one you fou il pas il presque mettre derrière il pas ça continuer mais Julian qui a passé ça tenir en full start en temps passé avec il servi ça pour pousser quoi devant avec ça ça a montré discipline qui dit qu'il a espéré qui en Chai Saint-Lucien jeunesse en particulier qui a servi Julian Alfred pour garder qui manière ça a changé quoi il est content qu'il garçon il levé avec il levé pour en Saint-Lucien qui joue une médaille l'or en Olympique ça avec l'année plusieurs l'autre médaille avec l'autre gros accomplissement il a fait et c'est ça qui était plutôt sa discussion. Toutes ces ces sénateurs fait contribution à ça avec ça qu'a monté encore comme on dit Valet Julian Alfred avec un Chai Saint-Lucien mais supposé qu'il gardé enfin qu'il sorti dehors avec célébrer Julian Alfred les entrepris en pays le 24 septembre ça c'est semaine prochaine avec grosse célébration comme nous t'ai dit avant le 24 c'est le 25 mois quoi et bien le 26 il y a une idée assemblage grand ça il a créé rallye yon Sophia et yon la ressource avec les 27 la même jour holiday quand il y a un grand spectacle en Christmas Stade Cricket, terrain cricket, ça c'est Darren Sunny avec une célébration qui continue. Moi, quand il est venu cette pour 4 jours seulement et qu'il est dévié. On est venu pour célébration. Marcel Souhani s'est coulé flag, drapeau pays pour célébrer.
I see we must proud St. Lucia. So I see we. So and I think even the members around the table really reflected to how you could have seen the enthusiasm, the pride, which is just a reflection of what went on, of what Julian Alfred did for the entire country.
Okay. Alors, et puis ça, nous avons dit merci un peu, peut-être nous allons joindre la semaine prochaine, nous allons célébrer Julian Alfred, assurer NTN qui mener tout ça qui a passé avec Saint-Étienne, aller dehors, sortir et nous célébrer. Quand l'occasion, et puis Julian Alfred.